When the crowd saw what happened to Bartimaeus, they were amazed, but perhaps not quite as amazed as they saw what happened later that day to one of the wealthiest men in their city. In Jesus' time, Jericho was a very prosperous town. It was called the City of Palms. It was one of the main taxation centers for the Roman authorities. But the Romans were the hated occupiers, and anybody who collected taxes for them was seen as a traitor. In fact, tax collectors were lumped together with robbers and murderers and banned from the synagogue. One of the main criticisms of Jesus by the religious establishment was, he eats with sinners and tax collectors. And in this town was such a man. His name was Zacchaeus, and he was the chief tax collector, and he was very wealthy. And he too had heard the stories of Jesus, and he wanted to take a look at him. But there was a problem. He was very short. And anyway, when you were the chief tax collector, it didn't feel that comfortable being amongst the crowd. So he ran ahead of the procession and he climbed a tree, a sycamore tree. But if Zacchaeus thought he was safe from everybody, he was wrong. When Jesus passed the tree that day, he suddenly stopped, looked up and said, "Zacchaeus, come down. I'd like to dine at your house today." Well, Zacchaeus came down the tree quickly and he opened his home to Jesus. But not everybody was pleased. No, not at all. Some said, "What's he doing eating with a notorious sinner?" But the guest that Zacchaeus invited into his home that day changed his life. He said, "I want to give half of my goods to the poor. If I've cheated anybody, I'll pay them back 4 times over." And Jesus said, "Today salvation is come to this home." Real life had to go on for Zacchaeus, but it would never be the same again.
Just imagine it. In session 5, we saw Jesus meeting with the blind beggar Bartimaeus. The character in this story is at the other end of the social scale, a wealthy but corrupt man. Zacchaeus had no apparent physical needs, but I wonder if there was an ache in his very soul. For both the beggar and this wealthy man, Jesus is passing by. And like Bartimaeus, Zacchaeus is desperate to see him. He casts aside all dignity and climbs a tree like a small boy. Not only does Jesus know where Zacchaeus is, but he knows his name and he wants a word with him. "Zacchaeus, I must stay at your house today." Zacchaeus doesn't hesitate. The internal battles in his heart are over, and he knows that more than anything else, he wants to follow Jesus, the young teacher who had called him by name no matter what it cost. I find it fascinating that although in some ways Zacchaeus is hiding, he does not seem afraid of Jesus. It's almost as if he's wanting and waiting to be found. Zacchaeus wasn't just any tax collector. He was the chief tax collector. And tax collectors were despised by the Jews, as they were considered traitors because they worked for the Roman government. He was corrupt, and so he was extremely rich, because he would obviously take his share of the money before paying it over to the Roman government. If he was alive today and he had to appear before the Sondo Commission, he would have a lot to answer for. He knew what he was. He knew what people thought of him. But he also realized that he was spiritually bankrupt. He realized his need for Jesus. He needed a second chance. He didn't want to remain stuck in the place he found himself, a place without Jesus. You see, you can't fix what you don't recognize as broken. He recognized his need for Jesus. So what did he do? He went looking for Jesus. He humbled himself, even willing to climb that sycamore tree so that he wouldn't miss his opportunity to see Jesus walking by. Imagine his surprise when Jesus called his name. Jesus not only saw him, he knew his name. Jesus knew and saw the value in Zacchaeus. He saw the potential in Zacchaeus. Jesus knew Zacchaeus, and he knew that Zacchaeus mattered. And when Zacchaeus saw that Jesus knew him, his response was by changing, and a changed life. Verse 8 of Luke 19 in the NLT. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I've cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. The good news is Jesus knows you and I today, and we need to recognize that we need Jesus. We need to reach out to Jesus. He's waiting for us, and he will welcome us because he wants us to come to him. He wants to make his home in our hearts. He wants to restore us, to heal us, to meet us at our point of need. So don't let Jesus go by. Let's reach out to him today and ask him to come and have a meal with us. Let's walk out the rest of our life with Jesus by our side, allowing him to transform us from the inside out. Let's choose today to walk in the light of Jesus and in all that Jesus has prepared for us. Ephesians 1 verse 3. All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus, who has blessed us with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly realms, because we are united with Christ. Let's unite with Christ today. Let's not wait a moment longer.